Hello, travelers and monster catchers abound. I'm Stella Ferris, and you've crash landed on the Monster Catchers Journal podcast. The forest beyond the storm-scarred delta was completely silent. Not even the wind moved. Orange mist curled around the ground like smoke, or a beak perched on my shoulder uneasily while Astra scanned the area with her tracker gun. Then the scanner suddenly glitched. Unknown glyph detected. Again, Luna muttered nervously. The signal had been appearing and disappearing for almost an hour. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't registering anywhere in the Academy database. A low growl echoed through the trees. Everyone froze. Something moved in the fog. Slowly, a strange creature stepped into the light. I stared in complete shock. It had the head of a giant alligator with rough green scales and sharp teeth. But growing from the top of its head were massive rabbit-like ears covered in glowing autumn leaf patterns. Its body looked soft and fox-like with golden fur around its legs and chest, and behind it curled an enormous fluffy squirrel-like tail. "What even is that thing?" Astra whispered. The strange glyph lowered its head defensively and growled again. Its bright blue eyes locked directly onto me. Only two eyes, but somehow they looked intelligent, almost human. Orabeak spread his wings immediately. "Careful," I warned quietly. The creature suddenly bolted sideways with incredible speed, leaping between the trees like lightning despite its strange body shape. "That thing is fast," Zena yelled. The glyph launched itself off a fallen tree and landed directly in front of us with a loud snarl. Its massive squirrel-like tail puffed up aggressively, while its bunny ears twitched sharply. Then it attacked. "Orabeak! Shadow Slash!" Orabeak rushed forward, slashing across the creature's side, but the strange glyph flipped backward almost like a rabbit before landing perfectly on all fours. The forest floor cracked beneath its claws. Then the glyph opened its jaws. A strange sonic growl blasted through the trees. Woof! The sound wave knocked all of us backwards. I slammed into the dirt hard while Astra nearly lost her scanner. "What kind of ability was that?" Luna shouted. The creature growled again, but didn't attack this time. Instead, it backed away slowly. That's when I noticed it. Its squirrel tail had several deep cuts across it, and one of its bunny ears was torn badly. "It's hurt," I whispered. The creature bared its teeth nervously, not angry, scared. Someone had clearly attacked it before we arrived. I slowly stood up and raised my hand carefully. "We're not going to hurt you," I said softly. The glyph's ears twitched. Orabeak looked back at me uncertainly. "You sure about this?" I nodded slowly. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out a healing crystal. The creature immediately crouched low defensively. "It's okay," I whispered. Very slowly, I approached the glyph. The glyph trembled but stayed still while I carefully pressed the healing crystal against its injured tail. Golden light spread across the wounds. Instantly, the creature's blue eyes widened. Its breathing slowly calmed. For a few long seconds, neither of us moved. Then the giant alligator-headed creature gently bumped its nose against my arm. Astra blinked in shock. "No way, it trusts you." The scanner suddenly beeped loudly. "New species capability detected." I slowly pulled a pyramid from my belt. "You want to come with us?" I asked quietly. The strange glyph looked at the pyramid, then back at me. Its giant squirrel tail curled happily behind it. Then it tapped the pyramid gently with one claw. Shwoop! Golden light exploded around the forest while leaves spiraled through the air. The creature vanished into the pyramid in a flash. Right into the glyphid. Click! Silence, complete silence. I stared down at the glyphid in disbelief. "We just caught a completely undiscovered glyph," Luna whispered. Then the pyramid shook slightly in my hands. A soft chirping growl echoed from inside. Orabeak tilted his head. "I think it already likes you." We thought that was the end. The strange new glyph rested safely inside its glyphid, while orange mist drifted through the giant crystal wood forest. Orabeak perched beside me while Astra carefully scanned the glyphid again. "A completely undocumented glyph," she whispered once again. "This could change everything we know about glyph evolution." Crunch, 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 crunch. Heavy footsteps echoed through the woods. Everyone immediately went silent. Luna slowly reached for one of her glyphids. Orabeak spread his wings protectively. Then a figure stepped through the fog. Orion, the former Academy researcher who abandoned the Academy years ago after his experiments were exposed. The man who later formed Team Constellation. His long dark coat dragged through the leaves while a strange purple device pulsed on his arm with unstable energy. The second the machine activated, the glyphid on my belt shook violently. The unknown glyph inside screeched in panic. Orion smirked faintly. There you are. I immediately stepped forward angrily. This time you've gone too far, I shouted. Orion's cold eyes locked onto me. You should have walked away while you still had a chance, Stella Ferris. Astra glared at him. You abandoned the Academy and started hunting rare glyphs for experiments. Correction, Orion replied calmly. I left because the Academy was too weak to do what needed to be done. The device on his arm suddenly pulsed. Boom! Purple energy blasted through the forest. The pyramid nearly flew off my belt while the strange glyph screamed from inside. Stop it, I yelled. Orbeak shot forward instantly. Shadow slash! Dark energy slammed into Orion, but a glowing purple barrier erupted from him and blocked the attack completely. The impact shook the trees. Luna's eyes widened. That's corrupted rift tech. Orion lowered the device slowly. That creature you captured is not some cute undiscovered species. I tightened my grip on the glyphid. Then what is it? Orion's expression darkened. A Riftborn. The forest suddenly went quiet. Even the bugs stopped chirping. Orion stepped closer, carefully. Years ago, the Academy discovered ancient records buried beneath old Nibiru. Records about creatures born between dimensions. The pyramid shook harder. Orange energy leaked from its seams. They erased the information because every Riftborn ever discovered caused catastrophic dimensional instability. That's impossible, Astra snapped. No, Orion said coldly. What's impossible is controlling one. The ground suddenly trembled beneath our feet. Boom! Trees shook violently around us. Orabeak screeched nervously. Then another growl echoed through the fog, massive, ancient, hungry. The unknown glyph inside the glyphid whimpered fearfully. Orion's face immediately changed. For the first time since arriving, he looked nervous. It found the child already. My stomach dropped. What child? Zena whispered slowly. The gigantic glowing blue eyes opened deep within the fog beyond the trees, far above us, watching silently. The giant glowing eyes remained motionless in the fog, watching us, watching the glyphid on my belt that was now on the ground. Nobody moved, nobody even breathed. The unknown glyph inside the glyphid whimpered again, soft. While the forest trembled around us, Orabeak pressed closer beside me, with his feathers puffed up nervously. Then the trees began to snap. Crack! Crack! Something enormous was moving toward us. Astra slowly backed up. Tell me that thing isn't coming this way. Orion stared into the fog with actual fear in his eyes. It can sense the Riftborn energy. You keep calling it a Riftborn, I snapped angrily. What does that even mean? Orion clenched his jaw. It means your glyph wasn't naturally born on Nibiru. The ground shook again. Boom! The massive creature finally emerged from the mist. My heart nearly stopped. It looked similar to the glyph I caught, but horribly distorted. Its alligator-like head was covered in black crystal growths. Massive, torn bunny ears dragged behind it, while glowing cracks pulsed across its giant fox-like body, and its squirrel tail. Its squirrel tail was gigantic enough to knock over trees. The creature growled deeply. Purple energy leaked from its mouth. Luna backed away slowly. That thing is corrupted. No, Orion whispered. It's hunting. The monster's glowing blue eyes locked directly onto the glyphid on the ground that was once on my belt just a few minutes ago. Then it roared. Boom! The shockwave exploded through the forest. Trees bent violently while everyone was thrown backwards into the dirt. The glyphid suddenly burst open. Swoom! Golden light exploded outward as the strange little glyph emerged protectively in front of me. Its giant bunny ears stood straight up while its fluffy squirrel tail puffed out defensively. The little glyph growled despite shaking in fear. The giant creature froze instantly for a moment. Everything went silent. Then the massive corrupted beast lowered its head slightly, almost sadly. It's calling to it, Zena whispered. The smaller glyph let out a soft chirping growls. In response, Orion immediately raised his device. Move aside, Stella Ferris. I turned towards him furiously. No! You don't understand what's happening. I understand enough, I shouted. You once heard it. Orion's eyes narrowed. That creature out there destroyed 3 settlements years ago after dimensional exposure corrupted it. If the young one bonds with it, another fracture could open. The giant creature suddenly roared again, but this time not at us. Several purple lasers blasted from the trees. Boom! 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 The giant beast staggered backwards. Figures in black armor emerged from the fog carrying corrupted tech rifles. Team Constellation. One of them pointed directly at the little glyph. There's the Riftborn pup. Another grinned. Boss was right. It really exists. Orion's expression immediately darkened. You idiots followed me? A woman in silver armor stepped forward, smirking. You didn't think we'd let you keep a dimensional glyph by yourself, did you? My stomach dropped. You were planning to capture it too? Astra shouted at Orion. Orion didn't answer. That was answer enough. The little glyph pressed against my leg fearfully, while the massive, corrupted creature roared protectively behind us. Then Team Constellation raised every weapon at once, and suddenly both Riftborns turned toward them together. The forest went completely silent. Even Team Constellation hesitated. The small Riftborns beside me lowered itself protectively while its massive corrupted parent stepped fully out from the fog behind us. Up close, the giant creature was terrifying. Black crystals corruption spread across its fox-like body, while glowing purple cracks pulsed beneath its scales. But its glowing blue eyes weren't focused on us anymore. They were focused on Team Constellation. The silver-armored woman smirked confidently. This just got interesting. Lower your weapons, Orion warned coldly. She laughed. Why, so you can take the Riftborn for yourself? Several members of the Team Constellation aimed their corrupted rifles directly at the smaller glyph. The little creature whimpered and pressed closer against my leg. That was enough for the giant Riftborn. It roared. Boom! The shockwave exploded through the forest, hard enough to send trees bending sideways. Several Team Constellation members were launched backwards, screaming. Fire! The silver-armored woman yelled. Purple blasts lit up the forest. Boom! 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 The giant Riftborn shielded the smaller one with its massive squirrel tail, while corrupted energy exploded across its crystal-covered body. Orabeak. Shadow barrier! I shouted. Orabeak spread his wings instantly, creating a dark shield around us, while Astra and Luna released several glyphs beside us. Myrno! Earth wall! The ground erupted upward into massive stone barricades. Orion cursed under his breath while activating his strange device again. You're all making this worse. You caused this, Astra shouted. The silver-armored woman suddenly leaped onto a fallen crystal wood trunk and pointed directly at me. Forget the adult. Capture the pup. 3 Team Constellation hunters rushed towards us with glowing containment chains. The little Riftborn growled fearfully. Then its bunny ears suddenly stood straight up. Orange energy pulsed through the forest. The air cracked. Crack! Reality itself split open beside us. Everyone froze. A glowing orange fracture appeared in midair, like shattered glass floating in space. What did it just do? Luna shouted. The little Riftborn looked just as shocked as we were. The dimensional crack began pulling leaves, rocks, and debris towards it violently. Orion's eyes widened in horror. No, 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 no. The giant corrupted Riftborn roared desperately toward the smaller one, almost like it was trying to warn it. But Team Constellation kept firing. One of the blasts struck the little Riftborn directly across its side. It cried out painfully, and the dimensional fracture exploded wider. Boom! A massive wave of orange energy tore through the forest. Trees ripped from the ground. Team Constellation members screamed while being thrown backwards into the fog. Even Orion lost control of his footing. I grabbed the little Riftborn before it could be pulled into the crack. It's okay, calm down, I shouted. The creature trembled violently in my arms. Then something impossible happened. The giant corrupted Riftborn slowly approached us, not attacking, not roaring, protecting. It lowered its massive alligator-like head beside the smaller glyph gently. The little Riftborn chirped weakly, and the giant creature responded softly, like a parent comforting a child. Orion slowly stood in stunned silence, so that's why it came here. The dimensional fracture continued growing behind us. Inside the glowing crack, I could see another place, a dark world filled with floating crystal storms and endless orange lightning, and something enormous moved deep within it. The dimensional fracture roared behind us like a living storm. Orange lightning cracked across the sky inside the rift, while floating crystal debris spiraled endlessly through the darkness beyond. The giant corrupted Riftborns stood protectively over the smaller creature, while Team Constellation slowly backed away in fear. Even Orion looked shaken. The little Riftborn trembled in my arms, frightened and confused. Then it finally hit me. I looked down at the creature sadly. I couldn't keep this glyph. None of us could. It didn't belong on Nibiru. It belonged with its family, with its mom, I whispered quietly. Astra looked toward me in shock. You're letting it go? I swallowed hard. It deserves to go home. The little Riftborn looked up at me with its glowing blue eyes, while its giant squirrel tail curled around my arm. My chest hurt. I had only just met this strange little creature, but somehow it already felt important to me. The giant Riftborn lowered its massive head toward me carefully, not aggressive, not threatening, waiting, trusting me. Slowly I carried the Riftborn toward the glowing fracture. The orange wind whipped around us violently. While the dimensional storm roared overhead, the smaller glyph whimpered softly and looked back toward Orabeak, Luna, and Astra and Zena. Orabeak lowered his head sadly. Guess this is goodbye. The giant Riftborn gently nudged his tail closer to the portal. I smiled weakly. It's okay, I whispered to the little creature. You get to go home. For a moment the small Riftborn hesitated. Then the giant creature stepped forward and toward the fracture first. The crystal-covered body disappeared slowly into the glowing storm beyond the rift. I carefully held the little Riftborn out toward the portal. Suddenly the giant creature stopped halfway inside. Its glowing blue eyes turned back toward me. The little Riftborn chirped softly. The giant creature stared at me for several long seconds, then it stepped fully into the rift. Boom! The dimensional fracture instantly began collapsing behind it. What? Orion shouted. The rift sealed itself completely. The storm vanished. The forest became silent again, and the little Riftborn was still in my arms. Everyone stared in disbelief. Astra blinked several times. It left its baby with you? The little creature pressed against my chest nervously, while its bunny ears twitched. The realization hit me slowly. The giant Riftborn trusted me enough to leave her child behind. My eyes widened. She knew, I whispered. Luna looked stunned. She chose you. Even Orion stood speechless. The little Riftborn looked up at me and let out a tiny chirping growl before curling its giant squirrel tail around my shoulder. Then Orabeak landed beside us softly. Well, Zena said quietly, looks like you're a parent now. Again, for the millionth time. Hand over the Riftborn Stellaferis, Orion demanded coldly. The damaged mechanical arm on his side cracked with unstable purple energy, while Team Constellation surrounded us through the fog. The little Riftborn immediately hid behind my neck, its giant squirrel tail tightening around my shoulder fearfully. I stepped back protectively. No! Orion's eyes narrowed. You have no idea what the creature is capable of, and you don't deserve it, Astra snapped. Orion raised the glowing weapon attached to his mechanical arm. I wasn't asking. Before he could fire, Orabeak exploded forward. Shadow blast! Boom! Dark energy slammed directly into Orion's mechanical arm. The entire thing ripped apart instantly. Metal shards and corrupted wires flew through the forest, while Orion screamed and staggered backwards into the dirt. Everyone froze. Smoke poured from the destroyed arm socket, while purple sparks cracked across the ground. Orabeak landed protectively in front of me with his wings spread wide. I told you to back off, I growled. The members of Team Constellation immediately panicked. His arm's gone! Fall back! Several hunters stumbled backwards into the fog, while Luna released Mirno beside her, and Astra aimed her weapon directly at Orion. I held the little Riftborn tightly against my shoulder, while it hissed nervously at Team Constellation. Orion slowly looked up at us with pure hatred in his eyes. This isn't over, he snarled. I glared back at him coldly. It is today. Orabeak charged another shadow blast in his mouth. That was enough for Orion Move! He shouted to his crew. Within seconds, Team Constellation disappeared back into the fog-filled forest, leaving only smoke and broken machinery behind. The forest finally became quiet again. Orabeak folded his wings proudly. That was easy. Easier than I expected it would be anyways. The little Riftborn slowly peeked out from behind my shoulder before chirping slowly and rubbing its alligator-like head against my cheek. Astra smiled. Well, Luna grinned excitedly. What are you naming this new Riftborn? I don't know. Let's try scanning him. I took out my scanner gun and tried to scan him. The device flickered wildly. Unknown life form. Searching Rift archives. Match found. Ancient symbols scrolled across the screen before translating into a single name. Riftborn species. Gatoroon. The little creature's bunny ears immediately perked up. Gatoroon? Astra repeated. The Riftborn chirped excitedly and wagged its giant fluffy squirrel tail so hard it nearly smacked me in the face. Orabeak laughed. Okay, yeah, that name fits him perfectly. I smiled softly and scratched the little gator-like glyph under the chin. Well then, I whispered. Welcome to the team, Gatoroon. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope that the Zelthar will shine his beautiful light down on you. And if you guys are loving this, please like and subscribe to this podcast. I'm bringing these to you from the planet Nibiru in the Exxon Galaxy. And I hope that from my planet to yours, I can eventually get you guys some plushies of all of the glyphs that are on Nibiru. And I hope that you guys enjoyed. I will see you next week. Goodbye.